Today, let's talk about how much house you can actually afford with 20% down, because somewhere along the way, that became the magic number for buying a home. But just because you can put 20% down doesn't mean you can just buy whatever you want.
Says who?
In reality, lenders are still looking at one thing first, your income. So the real question is, how far is your income actually going to take you in this market, especially here in San Diego? Now, if you're thinking, I've saved the down payment, I should be golden, this video is either going to give you that green light to start house hunting or feel like a slap to the face with your own pre-approval letter.
Ouch.
Because if your budget's not dialed in, you'll start falling for homes your lender wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, I'm gonna walk you through what 20% down actually buys you at 3 different income levels. We're gonna cover $100,000, $200,000, and $300,000 a year using common lender approval budgeting approaches. First will be the 28% DTI ratio for more conservative route and a 45% DTI ratio for buyers who wanna push a little more. Now, don't worry, if you don't know what the DTI ratio is, I'm gonna cover that in just a sec. Now, before we dive in, quick heads up. I'm not going to cover the 25% of your take-home pay rule that you've probably heard from Dave Ramsey's or your uncle at Thanksgiving. And here's why. Everyone's take-home pay is different depending on their taxes, retirement contributions, insurance, and other factors. Lenders don't use your net income when they qualify you. They use your gross income. So that's what we're going to use here. But if you want to use the 25% net rule, you can use this video as a starting point and plug your income where need be in lieu of the income number that I use here. If you don't know me yet, I'm Karl Kyler, your San Diego Realtor, and I've been helping buyers make smart, comfortable home purchases since 2004. And if you're trying to buy in a high-priced market like San Diego, knowing what 20% down really buys you is the first step towards not blowing your budget or your shot at home ownership. Now, if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing and liking this video. And if you find value in what I share with you and are interested in working with me on your next sale or buy here in San Diego, my contact info is in the description below. Let's jump on a call and see how I can help you with your next move. Now let's break things down. Let's start by talking about what 20% down actually does for you, because it's not just some magic number people throw around to sound responsible. When you put 20% down, a few really important things happen for you. First, you avoid private mortgage insurance or PMI. That's a monthly fee lenders charge you when your down payment is under 20%. And trust me, it's money you're paying to protect the lender, not you. So skipping that saves you hundreds of dollars a month, especially in San Diego where price ranges are as high as they are. Second, you get better loan terms, like a better interest rate and more flexible underwriting, because in the eyes of the lender, you're seen as less risky. Lenders love a borrower with skin in the game. And 3, your monthly payment is lower because you're financing a smaller amount from the start of the loan. Now, let's talk about DTI, short for debt to income ratio, which I mentioned a bit earlier. This is what lenders really care about when they're deciding how much home you can afford, or more specifically, how much they're gonna let you borrow. Your debt to income ratio is your monthly debt obligations divided by your gross monthly income. That's your income before taxes and any deductions. It's not what actually lands in your bank account. For this video, I'm walking you through 2 scenarios, a conservative 28% DTI and a more aggressive 45% DTI, which is what lenders kind of use. In both examples, I'll assume you don't have any other revolving debts, things like credit card loans, car loans, or student loans. Now you might be wondering, why is Karl using 28% and 45% DTI ratios? And that's a great question. These are only 2 examples to start with. I have a video that goes through a variety of ratios for mortgage to income, and I'll link that video at the end of this one for you to check out next. Now that we've got the foundation, let's look at what these numbers actually mean in real life, starting with $100,000 in income. And by the way, just as a reminder, that's gross income. At $100,000 a year, your gross monthly income is $8,333. That's $100,000 divided by 12 for clarity. Scenario number 1, if you're keeping it conservative, 28% of your gross monthly income means your total housing payment, that's mortgage, taxes, insurance, should stay under $2,333 a month. With current 30-year fixed rates around 6 3/4, a $350,000 home with 20% down gets you a payment of $70,000 and a loan amount of $280,000. Your monthly principal and interest on that loan amount is $1,816. Your property taxes at 1125% come out at $328. Your homeowner's insurance is about $108. Total estimated payment comes out to $2,252 a month. Now that's within the 28% limit, but let's be honest, $350,000 doesn't get you far in San Diego. At this price point, you're talking about condos, manufactured homes, or heading well inland, maybe even towards Hemet, Menifee, or the desert side of the 78. And something to consider, if there is an HOA on the property, that will throw off your debt to income ratios and bring down your approval purchase price. Scenario number 2, let's say you're comfortable stretching things a bit and your lender qualifies you at 45% of your debt to income. That brings your housing budget up to $3,750 a month. At that number, you're in the range to purchase a $600,000 home with 20% down. That's a $120,000 down payment and a loan amount of $480,000. With that 6 3/4 interest rate on a 30-year fixed loan, your monthly principal and interest comes out to about $3,113. Property taxes at 1125% run around $563 a month, and insurance is still gonna sit around $108. This gives you a total estimated housing payment of $3,784. right at the edge of your 45% debt to income limit. So you might actually fall under $600,000, especially if your homeowner's insurance runs a little higher. But let's stick with $600,000 since it's a nice, easy round number. Now at $600,000, you're no longer completely out of the conversation. You can start looking at starter homes like condos, townhomes, or apartments. But, and this is a big but here, you need to get your DTIs reassessed because all of these options come with monthly HOA dues. But you should still be within the $500,000 range, which will get you into a place you can call your own.
But Karl, I don't want to pay HOAs or live in a condo, townhome, or apartment.
Okay, that's fine. Here are some other options. That's right, there aren't any, at least not here in San Diego. So what's the takeaway here? $100,000 a year for a household income is barely getting you into home ownership. And to be honest, I probably recommend you not buying in these price points. Another option you might be better off with is investing that $100,000 from the down payment into something else and continue to save while focusing on boosting your income. Now let's run the numbers for a $200,000 income. And this income level, your gross monthly income is $16,667. With a 28% DTI ratio, that gives your max housing budget of $4,667 a month. That puts you in the range to purchase a home around $735,000 with a 20% down payment. That's $147,000 down and a loan amount of $588,000. At that 6 3/4 interest rate on a 30-year fixed, your principal and interest payment comes out to $3,814. Property taxes at 1125% at about $690 a month, and your updated homeowner's insurance is gonna be about $180 a month. That brings your total monthly payment to $4,684. Technically over, but still within striking distance. Now, is your brain starting to melt from all these numbers? So what does $735,000 buy you in San Diego? You're starting to see some options in single family homes in Spring Valley, El Cajon, or Chula Vista. Or a smaller detached home in older neighborhoods closer to the city center. It's not dream home territory, but it is a starting point. And you're not sharing any walls. Okay, let's see what happens if you use a 45% DTI ratio. At $200,000 income, 45% of your gross monthly incomes comes out to a housing budget of $7,500 a month. That opens the door to purchase a home around $1.15 million with 20% down. That's a $230,000 down payment and a loan amount of $920,000. At 6 3/4 on the interest rate on that 30-year fix, your principal and interest comes out to $5,967 per month. Property taxes at that 1125% at about $1,087 a month, and your homeowner's insurance comes in around $208 a month. That brings your total monthly payment to $7,253, which is comfortably under that $7,500 DTI limit, so you have a little bit of wiggle room to go up in price if need be. Now we're talking. At $1.15 million, you're in the game for a reasonable sized single family home in areas like Serra Mesa, Claremont, or parts of Chula Vista and Mira Mesa, among others. You'll still be compromising on size or upgrades in prime coastal zip codes, but this is a very livable range in the San Diego market. Now here's where it gets more fun. Let's break down what 20% buys you at $300,000 in income. $300,000 a year gives you a gross monthly income of $25,000. At 28%, your max housing budget is $7,000 per month. That puts you in the range to purchase a home around $1.1 million with 20% down. That's $220,000 down and a loan amount of $880,000. At a 6 3/4 interest rate on the 30-year fix, your principal and interest is $5,708. Property taxes at 1.125% at about $1,031 a month. And homeowners insurance comes in at that $208 that I just talked about. That puts your total housing payment at $6,947 a month, right under that $7,000 limit. And if you remember our $1.1 million example from earlier, you've got some solid options. Now, if you're comfortable maxing that 45% DTI ratio, your housing budget jumps to $11,250 a month. That gives you the firepower to shop around at $1.8 million with 20% down. That's $360,000 as a down payment and a 1.44 loan amount. At that 6 3/4, your principal and interest runs about $9,340 a month. Property taxes at that 1.125% at about $1,688 a month, and insurance is gonna run you about $270 at this price point. Total estimated payment, $11,298 a month, slightly over that 45% cap, but close enough that a lender might approve it depending on the rest of your profile. Now we're talking full-sized homes in neighborhoods like Kensington, Point Loma, or Poway. Maybe even a modest place west of the 5 depending on timing and inventory. Real quick, a couple of important points before I cut you loose. Just because you can qualify up to 45% DTI doesn't mean you should stretch yourself that far. That's a high ratio, and it leaves less room for things like savings, emergencies, or those things that just happen in life. I included it in this video for 2 reasons. 1, it's what lenders use, and 2, I wanted to give you a sense of what's possible depending on your comfort level. The second thing, these scenarios are very, very ballpark figures. Property taxes can vary. Homeowners insurance, especially here in California, is climbing fast, and interest rates change constantly. This video isn't your green light to start shopping. It's a framework, a starting point to help you understand the math before you go and get pre-approved. Now that you've seen how far 20% down actually gets you, you can start planning with purpose, not just taking random guesses. And that's it for this video. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And you're welcome to check out my other content that will pop up in either of these corners. As always, I'm Karl Kyler, your San Diego Realtor. I'll see you in the next video.